Standing.
Oh, yeah.
Couch walking yet or not? Okay. 2 weeks.
I pledge allegiance to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Grant us, O Lord, light to our understanding, prudence in our investigating, foresight in our planning, sincerity in our deliberating, the grace to follow truth in our judgment. Help us to be moved in our decision, neither by fear nor by self-interest, and to do our work faithfully. May we respect the authority vested in us, for thou art the source of all authority. May we use it in our directives for the common good, for thy honor and glory. Amen.
Amen.
Roll call, please. Call to order.
Mr. Joyce,
Present.
Mrs. Joyce,
Present.
Mrs. Hardwick,
Present.
Mrs. Mara.
Here.
Mr. Conrad.
Here.
Mr. Thompson.
Present.
Thank you. Okay, public comment. Please state your name and address and please turn the mic on. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jane Chaveco. I live at 14 East Shore. I noticed that we're looking to allow chickens. Now, I understand that people can have chickens, but before you guys put the horse before the cart before the horse, like South Euclid, you really should do some guidelines with chickens. They should be so far off of somebody else's house. They should, how large of a coop, that kind of stuff. If you look at other cities, a lot of them have, like Lake County itself, you have to be on an acre and at least 75 feet from your neighbor where you put the coop. And when you look at our properties, a lot of people, their backyard might be somebody's dining room because of the way our properties are configured. So instead of just taking chickens off the forbidden list, please make an ordinance controlling the chickens. Because what's going to happen when people just start putting up chicken coops and they're in people's yards? And who's going to enforce it? That kind of stuff. Okay. I didn't see any resolution, just the old one with chickens crossed off. But because South Euclid had problems. A lot of people did spike chickens. Okay. And they would put them like right next to their neighbor's bedroom and I understand we should also have no roosters in the ordinance. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
If you look, it's in the packet, the ordinance says, and it has all those details that you mentioned. So we did look at other communities' ordinances and
I used to have a neighbor that never cleaned up after their dog. And my yard and my house was always full of black flies. I couldn't have parties. Okay, and people don't even pick up their dog stuff. Because when I go out walking but your neighbor's dwelling where you can put it.
Okay, thank you. Any other? Okay, moving on to reading and disposition of the minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the council work session of May 16, 2023, please?
So moved.
Mr. Joyce makes a motion. Do I have a second?
second.
Mr. Conrad seconds. Roll call, please.
Mr. Joyce,
Aye.
Mrs. Joyce, Mrs. Hardwick,
Aye.
Mrs. Mara.
Aye.
Mr. Conrad.
Aye.
Mr. Thompson.
Aye.
Thank you. Next, do I have a motion to approve the regular council meeting of May 16th, 2023, please?
Make a motion.
Mrs. Mara makes a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mrs. Joyce seconds. Roll call, please.
Mr. Joyce,
Aye.
Mrs. Joyce, Mrs. Hardwick,
Aye.
Mrs. Mara.
Aye.
Mr. Conrad.
Aye.
Mr. Thompson.
Thank you. Moving on to legislation, versus resolution, proposed tax budget in the form of attached here to for the village of Timberlake, Ohio for the fiscal year 2024 and declare an emergency. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Thompson seconds. Roll call, please.
Mr. Joyce,
Aye.
Mrs. Joyce, Mrs. Hardwick,
Aye.
Mrs. Mara,
Aye.
Mr. Conrad,
Aye.
Mr. Thompson.
Aye.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve resolution 2023-16, please?
So moved.
Mr. Conrad makes a motion.
I second.
Mrs. Mara seconds. Discussion. None being heard. Roll call, please.
Mr. Joyce,
Aye.
Mrs. Joyce, Mrs. Hardwick,
Aye.
Mrs. Mara, Mr. Conrad,
Aye.
Mr. Thompson.
Aye.
Thank you. Next resolution 2023-17, a resolution amending the permanent appropriation funds for the village of Timberlake, Ohio for the year 2023 and declaring an emergency. Do I have a motion to suspend the rules, please? So moved. Mr. Joyce makes a motion.
Second.
Mrs. Joyce seconds. Roll call, please.
Mr. Joyce,
Aye.
Mrs. Joyce, Mrs. Hardwick,
Aye.
Mrs. Mara,
Aye.
Mr. Conrad,
Aye.
Mr. Thompson.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. And do I have a motion to approve resolution 2023-17, please?
Make a motion?
Mrs. Mara makes a motion.
Second.
Mr. Joyce is second. Any discussion?
I just, review what this was for. So there's some money in the NOPEC Fund 2902 that wasn't spent last year. We didn't get any receipts from the village club. So we're increasing that appropriation from $500 to $1,500. And Medicare. We couldn't find the cause. No leak was found and the meter was found to be functioning correctly. So hopefully whatever it was doesn't happen again. But in any way, we're short on funds in that area. So we have to increase that.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Raskus, how are we gonna come out with electricity? I see that, we've taken up the water and sewage, but all this about what's coming up with electricity, should we increase the electric?
I think so far we're good. And
Oh.
if we're short, there's probably some other areas we can make adjustments with them. So, but if it comes down to it, we'll have to increase it. But I think so far for the year we'll be all right.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Joyce,
Aye.
Mrs. Joyce, Mrs. Hardwick,
Aye.
Mrs. Mara, Mr. Conrad,
Aye.
Mr. Thompson.
Thank you. Next is resolution 2023-18. A resolution declaring surplus personal property and directing the fiscal officer and authorizing all actions necessary to affect the sale and or credit value of the same and declaring an emergency. Do I have a motion to suspend the rules, please? So moved. Mr. Joyce makes a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Mrs. Hardwick seconds. Roll call, please.
Mr. Joyce,
Aye.
Mrs. Joyce, Mrs. Hardwick,
Aye.
Mrs. Mara,
Aye.
Mr. Conrad,
Aye.
Mr. Thompson.
Aye.
Thank you. And do I have a motion to approve resolution 2023-18, please?
Make a motion?
Mrs. Mara makes a motion.
I'll second.
Mr. Joyce seconds. Discussion.
What do we think we can get for that used truck?
I don't
It's
know.
running, right?
So, don't know.
Yeah, I don't know, but first we have to get another title. We have to get a copy of the title. But we can put in the language when we do publish the notice that the village can accept or reject any bids. So we don't have to necessarily take the bid, even though, so suppose somebody gives us a really low bid, we don't just have to accept it. We can reject it still. So
Okay.
Oh.
And then what, do we have an idea of what it's worth?
I don't know.
What year is
I'm
it?
guessing about 10,000.
Two-
Okay.
2000.
2001, it's
2001, okay. Yeah. And then the laser printer, what's that worth?
And that's probably over 10 years old. It's probably worth $50.
When a boat pulls up, we'll give it as an anchor.
So do you have to post it for sale before you can dispose of it? Or is
The
it?
truck has to be posted. We have to publish that in the newspaper because it's over a certain value and we have to accept bids for it. The other items, we don't need to. We can just sell to whoever wants them or dispose of them. So,
Does that also include the old tables?
yes. Yeah, I included the 28-foot regular rectangular tables in there too, so. And if there's any other items, we can
Passed over those tables.
add them later.
And bad.
So we can do another one.
Any other questions? Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Joyce,
Aye.
Mrs. Joyce, Mrs. Hardwick,
Aye.
Mrs. Mara,
Aye.
Mr. Conrad,
Aye.
Mr. Thompson.
Thank you. Next, resolution 2023-19. A resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into amended mutual aid agreement with the Lake County Board of Commissioners and to add Lake County Sheriff and his designee as permanent member of the Lake County Narcotics Executive Board of the Lake County Narcotics Agency and declare an emergency. Do I have a motion to suspend the rules, please?
Make a motion.
Ms. Mara makes a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mrs. Joyce seconds. Roll call, please.
Mr. Joyce.
Aye.
Mrs. Joyce, Mrs. Hardwick,
Aye.
Mrs. Mara, Mr. Conrad.
Aye.
Mr. Thompson.
Thank you. And do I have a motion to approve resolution 2023-19, please?
I'll make a motion.
Mrs. Hardwick makes a motion.
I'll second.
Mr. Joyce seconds. Discussion. None being heard. Roll call, please. Oh, go ahead.
Before, so what is this? Is this something we've done in the past? Is it? What is this? I'm not sure what this all means. So I'm guessing that's why I'm asking the question. What,
John, would you?
I could try.
This is requested by the.
Right.
Right.
it is,
In order
okay.
to allow for the cooperation of all the agencies, specifically with the Lake County Narcotic. It's very common, but I think what they're adding is just some language about the board of trustees, if I'm not mistaken. Mr. Rock.
That's what it appears to be, yes.
All right. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Joyce.
Aye.
Mrs. Joyce, Mrs. Hardwick,
Aye.
Mrs. Mara, Mr. Conrad,
Aye.
Mr. Thompson.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Next is ordinance 5-2023. Second reading, an ordinance amending section 10 of the Village of Timberlake personnel and policies procedures includes the establishment of a vacation and sick leave policy for full-time employees and several corrections and clarifications to section 10.
Mayor, I would recommend that we keep this on second reading. And I'd like to suggest that we have a work session prior to the August meeting. Discuss not only the provisions of this, but also to talk a little bit about police recruitment and retention, because I think these go hand in hand.
Okay. Okay. Next is ordinance 6-2023, second reading, an ordinance amending section 700-03 or 0.03, prohibited animals of the codified ordinances of the Village of Timberlake. Next ordinance 7-2023, second reading, an ordinance permitting and keeping and raising of chickens in the Village of Timberlake. Again, there's a breakdown and we can discuss this again at the next work session. Next is ordinance 7-2023. I'm sorry, 8-2023. An ordinance authorizing the mayor of the Village of Timberlake to enter into an agreement with the Lake County Board of Commissioners to participate in Urban Entitlement Community Development Block Grant CDBG program and for the utilization of funds made available by the Housing and Community Development Act of 1974 as amended and declaring an emergency. Do I have a motion to suspend the rules, please?
So moved.
Joyce makes a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Conrad seconds. Roll call, please.
Mr. Joyce,
Aye.
Mrs. Joyce, Mrs. Hardwick,
Aye.
Mrs. Mara, Mr. Conrad, Mr. Thompson.
Aye.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve ordinance number 8-2023?
I make a motion.
Mrs. Mara makes a motion.
I'll second.
Mrs. Joyce seconds. Discussion?
So this is with the Lake County Board of Commissioners.
Right, this is another, well, basically, in order for the county to be able to apply for certain HUD, Housing and Urban Development Funds, they have to get approval from each political subdivision within the county. So Lake County is considered an urban county, so in order to be able to get that funding, we have to sign onto it again for another 3-year period.
Yeah, and I think the administration, because I looked into this, the administration of this is done through an arm of Job and Family Services. So the commissioners and the Lake County government handle the applications for each individual political subdivision, and then they disperse the monies as they see fit. So I think it's a good thing, and we potentially could apply for one of these block grants.
Any other discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Joyce,
Aye.
Mrs. Joyce, Mrs. Hardwick,
Aye.
Mrs. Mara, Mr. Conrad,
Aye.
Mr. Thompson.
Thank you. Moving on to reports. Don't have much to report. Just want to say that we are moving forward with a lot of the, as far as service, we're fixing up the playground. Mr. Conrad will go into the detail about what we're doing there. And then we did also clean out some sewer. There's some storm sewers that had roots in them. So we got those cleaned out. Again, Mr. Conrad will give us the details of where those were all done. And also sanitary sewer. And we're just going to move forward with also catch basin repairs. That'll be the next on the list, hopefully within the next few weeks. As long as we get done before the rainy season here, but we want to try to get as much as we can done with, again, we want to get this parks done and clean everything up there and, before basically the summer, before family fun days. And don't have anything else much to report other than that. So moving on to solicitor's report.
Everything at this time.
Okay, thank you. And council members, Mrs. Hardwick, Village Hall report.
I don't have anything at this time. The hall's just being rented out and people are thrilled with the idea of the new tables. When I tell people who have had parties before that we've gotten new tables and they're 39 pounds, they're like, oh my gosh. So they're very
So much
excited.
lighter, yes.
Yeah,
They look nice.
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Okay. Conrad,
All right.
you're up.
You gave me a teaser there, Mayor, so thank you. As always, I have a lot to say, so I'll try and keep it short, as I always say, and I never do. But sewers, so we did clean out storm sewers. We got one on Iowasa, one on Shawandasi for Mrs. Magano. The one on Iowasa was by Mr. Saba's house. They also did another one for us because we had time left on I guess what you call the contract, right? They finished the other ones before the time they quoted. So they were able to clean out one on Nokomis as well. And then the sanitary sewer, they flushed that on Iowasa, gets a little low and backfills. So a flush of that keeps everything running smoothly so we don't back up and fill the village with odors. The playground equipment was delivered. The service guys actually put the one slide in. It looks really nice. The mayor sent me a picture. So we're making progress there and the mulch is going down as we speak, if I understood correctly. We also have the tic-tac-toe panel and bongos to install on the playground. But we're gonna need to purchase uprights for the tic-tac-toe panel. So I'm in contact with Game Time, the distributor we use to look into purchasing those. It just wasn't really feasible on it as we thought. The dimensions were different and the uprights have shifted over time. So it doesn't fit like it's supposed to, right? So the measured distance isn't the same as what it was when it was put in. So that's part of trying to retrofit an old playground structure with their new equipment. But we're looking into that. We'll hopefully have that all sorted out soon. I presume the August meeting, but we have to have a little quick special meeting to talk about that. We can, but I do believe since there's money in the budget, we can, depending on how much it is and if it's a reasonable price, we can just.
What are the
purchase
parts that you need?
The uprights, so
The
just
uprights.
freestanding uprights. to mount
Okay.
the tic-tac-toe panel on.
All right.
And then on the grant front, so, me and the mayor have been very busy. We both attended a NOACA meeting and the commissioners meeting, looking for grants and voicing our concerns about, the inequality that the village faces because we're small and never meet the point requirement system for these grants. We got a lot of good leads, and I want to give a shout out to the mayor. People don't realize how many of these meetings he goes to and is a good advocate and a voice for the village. I think he's one of the only, I want to say a crazy person, but he's the only
Could say it.
non-board member in
Yeah,
NOACA that
crazy.
shows up to all the meetings. So he spends a whole Friday down in Cleveland on behalf of the village, making connections, finding out about grants and voicing his concerns with the way that NOACA is run currently.
And even takes public transportation down there
He
sometimes.
did
to
ride the
work.
bus down there, which is an extra hour
Baby.
added to it. He's one of the 7 people the whole time on there, right? Definitely underutilized resource there, public transit. But when I did go down there, I had spoke to Brian Blaney, who is the District 12 coordinator, which is the ODOT district that we're in, about systemic safety grants back in February. And every time I called or sent another email, I kind of got ignored. And when we went down there, this is 3 Fridays ago, he was actually there. So I got to make the connection, meet him in person, ask him if I had the right email. He's like, I've just been really busy. And since then, I've had 2 fruitful meetings with them. And it looks like we do qualify for the systemic safety grant. Got some rough numbers from them and I shared them with John. But it's a 90-10 match. I think the project for the sidewalks is like $1.2 million. So the burden on the village currently, if the 30% contingencies and the inflation rate stays the same, was in the $150,000 to $180,000 range. But we had a meeting with Pete Formica from CT Consultants yesterday, and we're gonna go after some OPWC grant money to offset that. And then also, when the mayor was at the NOACA subcommittee meetings this Friday, he connected with Ben Capel, who is the CEO of Lake Tran. And we have, 6 bus stops? 4 Lake Tran stops. They're just literally posting the ground right now at people's front yards around the corners. So the mayor talked to him and he's willing to chip in money to make those ADA accessible and make them more than just a post in the ground. We're not anticipating putting in benches and big structures or anything like that, because we don't want people loitering or sleeping on them, but they do have some designs. And Pete at CT Consultants is actually the one that designs those and implements those for Lake Tran. He told us there's like ones with little shelters that are like standing only, like you can kind of lean up against it, but you can't sit on a bench or lay on a bench. So we have a meeting with him coming up in July to discuss, what he'd be willing to put it on that. So our goal is to minimize the financial burden on the village and hopefully make it 0 or very little. Be able to implement this systemic safety grant and make Lakeshore safe and connect Lakeshore to the rest of the village. And I think that's it. Thank you.
Well, I just want to say you've been doing a great job too, especially with all those charts and spreadsheets. And then again, with the tree, we also, I was at the air quality and water quality subcommittee meetings with NOACA. And we brought up the fact that with our tree canopy, that our trees actually purify the air, absorb CO2, reduce CO2, and also absorb carbon monoxide and a lot of other toxins. And Mr. Conrad put together a spreadsheet and a bunch of statistics that I read off to them. And they basically acknowledged that, yes, this is a good plan, a good climate action plan that we have. And I told them that we can use Timberlake as the model. I told them that we have many trees that were dead and diseased that we had to remove. Now we need them all replaced so we can get our tree canopy back. So looked into that. And again, there's going to be over $6 billion in air quality and water quality money available in grants. So, and pretty much their only plans they have right now is to reduce CO2, is put up charging stations, increase the public transportation, the train and the rail, and also, what's the third one? Put in bike trails. Sorry, yeah. So, I mean, they're planning, but there's no plan in the planning. So, but pretty much though, they did like the plan that Mr. Conrad and I put together, like I said, and again, we're
It
gonna,
wouldn't affect us. They charging stations, we wouldn't get a charging station.
oh, no, we're looking at the trees.
I know, but I'm just saying.
Trees.
other
Oh, charging stations.
They don't want
Well,
to
there's
charge-
possibly, I mean, there's grants out there. We're looking at also possibly getting a couple police cruisers that are all EV and put charging stations here. So we'll see what's available on that also.
Yeah, and just for the good of the population, I used the USDA Forest Service research database. It's called iTree. And there's some interesting tidbits of facts here that the trees in the village counteracts the CO2 emissions of 47 internal combustion engine cars. So we are actually purifying the air. And we did a calculation based off of the census and who in the village drives cars. So there's 10% that use public transportation according to the recent census. And as a village, we actually sequester more CO2 than we produce from our cars. So we are actually a positive impact on the community in regards to the trees and not only CO2, but we remove carbon monoxide, ozone, nitrogen dioxide, sulfur dioxide. So it has a huge health benefit for air quality. And the thing it quotes there is the tree canopy that we have actually prevents 2 asthmatic attacks per year. So you're actually helping those with asthma in the village by putting trees, and hopefully we can get rid of the old dead trees and put new healthy trees and increase that impact that we have on the environment and make Mr. Thompson's jobs a little easier. There's not trees falling down. There's just new pretty trees standing up.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Joyce, finance.
Yes, I attended the Village Club meeting last week. They planning the family fun days, which is always a cool thing. I was really impressed with the number of people who were here. It was great attendance, high energy, a lot of good ideas for future projects and events. So I want to commend our president of the Village Club here for her leadership in terms of bringing that around. Also, we have a daughter getting married in September, and she was in from Michigan last week. And we made a trip over here and found that nobody was using the village hall. So we came in and she was very excited about the new tables. She had tablecloths that she was measuring to make sure that they all fit. And she also felt that the paint job that had been done in here really brightened up the place. So I just want to commend council for approval of this and getting the guys in the works department to do the work in here and looks really great. So she's the reality is that it's a couple months away now and it's getting pretty serious. So, this was one thing off of her mind and believe me, when it's off of her mind, then I don't have to deal with it. So it's a good thing. But that's it. That's all I have.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Joyce.
Just 2 comments. I did walk by the playground this morning and it was great. And I'm so happy that it's a smaller spot because for the 2, 3, 4-year-olds, it's great. I'm really looking forward to tomorrow. We'll have our 2, 4-year-olds tour the world.
Awesome.
The second thing is we are relatively new to the village, But, this captain's night, which was advertised by the Village Club, it's the first time I noticed that where signs were put at our triangle at a ways up. And, they seem to be more prominent. And I think that that's a really great thing, because I used to always have to report, who does not walk through the neighborhood. And the only time I would see it is when I walk by East Shore and circle back. So I think that's great, because that's, people don't necessarily use the Timberlake Times, like they don't have the mailboxes. But, when you want to get the word out, it's really great that people who live in the outer place and often don't drive.
Right, yeah, because people down at that end don't come to this end much.
Exactly.
And
You
yeah,
shoot up the lake
Right.
pretty much all the time, so I would always have to.
well, I tried to get the triangles.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so I
and
think
face
that's-
it so people coming and going could see them both ways.
Mhm.
And I forgot where I put the last one, so I actually had to make a lap around the village to see where I put it. So,
I thought it was great.
thank you. Yeah,
Helps
thank
with
you.
Getting the word out.
Good, thank you. Okay. Smart.
Not much report other than Cindy. I know you got some great hairs from the Village Club meeting so far. A lot of energy. That's a good word, Mr. Joyce. But more energy, more opinions, and Cindy, you're doing a great job. I'd like to commend the Sharmas. The Sharmas are leaving our neighborhood. I'm sorry to see them go. Commend all their service that they've done. Sunny Sharma, Dr. Sharma, we had given them gifts before when they had left the council, then they came back to council. Dr. Sharma came back to council. But the whole family, Sunny, Shannon, and Dr. Sharma has given a lot to the village. They were very appreciative of coming to this country. And they were very honored to serve on council. So if you see them in the village before they leave, I think it's very soon. Do you know that, Chief? Are they leaving real soon? Do you know? End of June?
No idea.
I think,
House is up for sale.
Right, we know that.
I think they're going. I think they're leaving the 30th.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we have then, so then not this Friday, next Friday. So if you do see them,
Right.
thank them, wish them luck.
The limo's
A
gonna
great
pick 'em.
family. We're losing a great family in the village. And God bless to all of them. That's all I have to report.
Thank you. Regarding trees, we do have a neighbor here at the village hall who's looking to get some tree work done in their backyard. And due to the lot size and the placement of the house, they're gonna have issues getting access to a crane back there. So I met with their preferred contractor, and it looks like we're probably going to have to give them access through parcel A. So we're gonna work that out, and hopefully there's no damages, and we'll see how that goes. We might be able to get some free tree work out of it for giving them access. So that might help the village in a way. But I think that's all regarding trees. It's good to hear that your meeting went well and Timberlake's trees are being seen in a positive light and helping clean the air. And so that's good. On a personal note, being last in alphabetical order, being in Thompson, Jerry says half the stuff I want to say as usual. So, but I also wanted to point out, Cindy, and with the help of the service department, you've done a good job getting this place painted. Because we had a party here 2 weeks ago. I believe we were the first to be in here with the new tables, and the new tables were much easier to move. We were using the new cart you got last year, and so it's much easier to throw a party here than it was just a couple weeks ago. So thank you. You've done a good job with that.
Thank you.
Could I make one more comment regarding the trees? One of the things that the Village Club is doing is that they have purchased a tree that has been planted out here in honor of Ron Mona. As we all know, Ron Mona did some great things for the village. He loved the village and very active in the Village Club before that. And so I think it's appropriate that Timberlake would have a tree that would be dedicated to Ron Mona. Anyway, the formal dedication is going to be just prior to the next Village Club meeting, if I remember that correctly.
It's going to be Family Fun Day.
Oh, our Family Fun Day,
Family
okay.
Fun
I'm gonna
Day.
suggest that. So
Okay, so what I was going to do is I was going to suggest that all the council be there for part of that, but since it's Family Fun Day, we'll probably all be there anyway, so that's sort of a moot point, but
And that'll be August 6th,
Mhm,
Cindy?
mhm.
August 6th. Hope to see everybody there. August 6th.
Following up Kevin and his trees, and I have a comment.
Mhm.
I'm mobile a lot in the village, so anytime anybody has a comment or a complaint, I hear a lot. There were several trees taken down at the property at 23 East Shore. Two very giant trees, and when people see trees come down in this village, they get upset. Luckily, when the trees were on, and I shared it with Kevin, when the trees are, the big trunk is loaded to be taken out of here, every tree they took down was severely rotten. And I have commented to people because they're very discouraged to see that yard and so many trees are now gone.
Yeah.
But they do plan on replanting where those trees were taken down. So just people love their trees in this village, and some of them were real upset when they saw those great big trees come down.
Yeah, that's great to hear. And yeah, the chief's right. She did send a message to me and the mayor to explain what was going on because the road was also obstructed with the big vehicles. And sometimes that happens. We've had a lot of private tree work going on in the village, and the chief and the department does a pretty good job at keeping the traffic going and keeping everybody safe and out of the way. Yeah, I don't know all those trees. Where they were on the property. Some of them might have been far enough back. It looked like when I drove by that it wouldn't have been under the village purview anyway. But yeah, you sent me that photo with the tree was completely hollowed out, and that would have been, I mean, very, very dangerous and very large.
Grind up the stumps, because they're planning on replanting trees like we do. So,
Good.
I have assured people that, you'll have more trees soon.
That's excellent to hear.
Kevin, could you, I mean, not Kevin, I'm sorry. Although you are the tree man, but Ryan did the study. Could you share that in the Times? Could you
Put a
make a
tidbit together. Yeah.
little blurb on?
You can even just put this in. I'll share it with everyone on council, and then
Yeah.
look at the little blurb that's on there. It's pretty fun facts, and it's got nice clip arts in it.
Sure.
From the
Yeah.
1990s, but we could spruce it up.
But it would
Pun
get some
intended.
information out there too for people to read.
We give it to our publisher.
There you go.
So make
Okay.
sure you give credit to the.
Yeah, it's got a tag on it. Yep.
Okay. Fiscal officer, monthly report, please.
Okay, our general fund ending balance through May 31st is at $325,951.99. Month to date revenue for May was $78,489.79 versus expenditures of $50,857.49. And there was also a transfer out to the newly created playground construction fund of $8,000.15, including expenditures and the transfers. There was a net increase of the balance for the month of $19,632.15. Expenditures were in line with estimates for the month. General fund revenue through May 31st is about $2,778 less than last year. This is attributable to lower than expected property tax collection rates and not as robust income tax collection year to date versus last year. At this time, based on our current estimated spending rates and revenue, we estimate a surplus for the general fund this year of around $78,708. This would not include any additions to the Village Hall or Police Cruiser capital funds. The change versus last month in this surplus estimate is largely due to lower than expected income tax revenues year to date and the transfer to the newly created playground construction fund for the required 25% match for the potential Ohio Department of Natural Resources grant. Overall, if we receive this grant from ODNR, it will be a net benefit to the village. Again, the village will need to maintain conservative spending versus total appropriations to achieve this surplus. For example, in 2022, our total spending in the general fund was $647,712 versus total permitted appropriations of $761,708. Other significant fund activity and miscellaneous we paid our first half bond payment for our 2016th Street Improvement Project in the amount of $20,832.15 to CNB Bank. That's the parent of Erie Bank. And this came out of our Fund 3902 Paving Improvement OPWC Debt Service Fund. And it originated from a general fund transfer. Additionally, $840 in refunds were issued from the 9901 Hall Rental Security Deposit Refund Fund, and there was no other significant activity.
Okay, thank you. Okay, police chief, monthly report, please.
Have a couple of things before I read my report. The first is to remind everybody, we passed ordinance 05-2022 last year regarding fireworks. And I just want to remind everybody, and maybe we can put it in the Times, that fireworks in the village of Timberlake are illegal. The second thing that I want to bring attention to council for is the state of Ohio passed House Bill 47, I believe on June 16th, that mandates AEDs in schools and rec centers. The village hall has an AED and the police department has an AED. And in reading about the passing of this mandatory for schools, I thought maybe it's time we better check on our AEDs. I discovered that our batteries are expired. The AED, I had to reach out to the manufacturer. The AED that's right out here in the hallway was purchased in 2012. The one in the police department hallway was purchased in 2013. They cost to the tune of $1,699. What I discovered beyond the expired batteries is I had to give the serial number to Zoll. ZOLL is the manufacturer. And in both the AEDs, they have the original package of pads, and the pads were supposed to be replaced like every 5 years. I brought it to John's attention. If we want to bring our AEDs up to current where they're usable, it'll cost us $242 for each unit. For the pads are $207. The batteries are really cheap online with Amazon. Zoll sleeve of each unit takes 10 batteries. Zoll sells a sleeve of 10 batteries for $92. We can get the same batteries in a 12-pack for $34.87 on Amazon.
Question, are they made in China though? And the Zoll ones are better, because again, those Zoll ones
They're-
lasted like 10 years, right?
The ones that are in our AEDs that they recommend are actually, I didn't bring they're Duracell.
Oh, they're Duracell?
They're Duracell.
So we can get the same.
123A is the actual battery.
Okay,
And it's a different brand that Zoll sells. But, she asked me if I knew the price, and I said, they're on Amazon. And she said, oh my God, that's a really good price, jump on it. And then she asked me what they were. I said, they're Duracells, and that's what's in the units now. They were, granted, our unit is 10 years old. The one in the hallway is 11 years old. The warranties were only 7 years. I did find the receipt in the police department that we bought the one in our hallway. This one was actually bought by the village of Timberlake. Because they've been used so infrequently, thank you for that blessing, they're still good. I mean, the lifespan of an AED is 10 to 15 years, depending on how many times you use it. They can be refurbished, or we can buy new ones. It's actually a little bit cheaper than it was the first time around. We paid $16.99 for it, and a new one sells for $15.69, and they'll allow a trade-in on our old ones. But she assured me that if we bought a new packet of pads and pediatric pads, I didn't price pediatric pads, for $242, they can be made serviceable again. I don't know that the village would want to buy new AEDs, do away with the AEDs we have. I know in the police department, we've used ours. I don't know if this one in the hall has ever been used. So, I mean, if you want to spend $242, for the hall one and another $242 for the one in the police department, we're up and running.
They get service.
Excuse me?
Do they get service like? a
No,
fire extinguisher?
they don't, they're not serviced. We just have to make sure And that's why I reached out to them, because I could find no proof that we ever replaced our pads. We have replaced our batteries. But I don't have any records for this one. So,
We should put a tag in there with service log or when we replace them.
Correct.
So that. you know,
Correct.
with Changing administrations. or
correct.
people
I
moving,
agree. I was rather stunned to find out that the pads were original to each unit. So,
We could get one of those, I'm sure there's a sticker on Amazon, like a service.
oh yeah,
record
and it comes
sticker.
with the battery pack.
Oh, okay.
And there is, and we could, so we identify this and we don't run across it. Somebody else runs across it down the road.
Then you say it's every 5 years, we write it and we know 5 years from X
Right.
date, every July or August.
Correct. I just, our units, yes, they're out of warranty. The warranty is only 7 years. But I was assured by Zoll over the phone today and in email that, they do still have a lot of lifespan.
That the manufacturer,
Zoll,
Yeah.
ZOLL, yes.
if they're telling you it's good, they usually want to sell you a new one, so.
Well, and she did tell me that they have a trade-in, system. What do you call it? Program. I was really surprised that being the manufacturer, that she assured me, oh, I mean, you've got 7 to 10 years more life, even though they say 10 to 15 years and we're already 10 years and 11 years old. She said, you've got some years left. So I was happy. That's not usually what a manufacturer will tell you.
So when this came up, in an email exchange, I asked the chief to bring this up to council because I thought council should weigh in on whether we spend the 240, whatever it is, or do a potential trade-in. So you found out more information since we.
Yes,
talked
I did.
earlier Today.
She
So-
actually emailed me like at 4:30 today.
And Mr. Roskus, I'm assuming that would be a budgeted item, that would be equipment or.
Yeah, we could take some out of the village hall, operating, and also we could split it, though. It wouldn't all come out of village hall.
Out of the police
Right, so that one would come out of police, but I think there's enough to do it.
It
For
just,
the,
in checking into
for
it,
the,
it concerned me.
for the
that,
pads and the batteries. we have to
We're
put that right.
expired and we need the pads and batteries.
What's the trade-in program look like? Do you have those?
They only give you like $259 for the unit.
What's it-
And a new unit is $1,569.
Does that include new pads, and battery then?
Yes, it does
So
come
it'd
with
be
new
less
pads
too.
and batteries.
I mean, it's a necessity, right? It's a life-saving.
It's
If you look at
not,
it this way, if you invest in it now, you're gonna need to replace them in 5 years.
Yeah.
At that time, you can make the decision to go ahead and the units
Mhm.
and trade them in then. But
Yeah.
at the very least, I thought you guys should be involved in the discussion because this is a fairly important thing that nobody knows about until it's necessary.
and when it comes, I've been a police officer 38 years. I've worked at North Randall Police Department on the gaming floor at Thistledown Racino. In my 6 years there, I actually used the AED twice. In my 17 years at Tri-C, back to back a year on the same day, September 5th of 05 and September 5th of 06, we used an AED in the cafeteria. So like Mr. O'Leary said, if you have it and it's needed, it will save a life.
Yeah, I've had to use one before and I don't know which model these are, if they're the old model, but the new ones now give you verbal instructions.
These
too, so
do.
these
they're all automated. I
Which
mean,
is what you want, because
any
it's a stressful
layperson-
situation, even if you know what you're doing.
yes,
you know?
and any lay person can open it up and turn it on and it will give you
Think it's working?
step-by-step instructions.
Yeah, no brainer, right?
Was everybody okay with her just getting the replacement batteries?
Sure, and pads.
And
Mhm.
pads,
Yeah,
and pads.
absolutely.
All right.
Do we don't need a resolution for that. do we?
No.
No.
Okay,
Thanks for looking into that, Chief.
It's
Making sure
amazing.
that they're up to date. That's.
well, when I saw that House bill passed and they're making it mandatory in schools, it's gonna be
Right,
pretty soon,
mandatory or not, we don't want
police
to eat of it,
departments.
not, and
Right,
find that they're not
like,
working.
like
that
I
would-
said,
bad.
I personally have used one you have to have a partner. And I've used it 4 times. So, I mean, if you need it and it's there, it's great.
Not only a police officer, she's a paramedic too. so-
No, I'm not. And you don't have to be certified in first aid, nothing. Any lay person can use the kind of AEDs we have. You turn it on, it gives you the instruction. You just have to pay attention when that machine says clear, because one person's operating the machine. And I always was the one on the chest doing the compression. So when they holler clear, you better clear, other you're gonna get the zap with the person. So. One other thing, I issued 5 warning ordinances. They were sent out by certified mail, return receipt, specifically because I discovered, even though we updated our ordinance regarding boats and trailers and recreational vehicles, we also have a separate ordinance that is, I believe, 660.60 for junk vehicles. And that ordinance specifies that you send it out by certified return receipt mail. I did have some difficulty because this is my 3rd summer of dealing with people that have campers. And they don't come to the door. I've taped notices to the front door and see that the notice is taken, but they don't acknowledge they got it. So I figured if I'm sending one out for a junk car, I'll send it out for the 3 campers I sent out and 1 boat. So June is when everybody complains about what's parked in the driveways. So I just jumped on it and sent them out. The mayor did have some phone calls over it, but he did tell me that everybody will comply. So I'd rather nip it in the bud at the beginning of the summer than deal with complaints all summer about campers and boats. So now I can read you my monthly report. We had 3 911 calls, 2 accidents, 1 animal complaint, 6 assist calls, 1 civil complaint, community policing, which is the beach and the playground, 54, 1 domestic violence, 1 road hazard, 75 house checks, 1 information call, 10 investigations, 3 noise complaints, 6 phone complaints, 1 scam call, 1 suspicious circumstance, 2 traffic complaints, 1 transport of a prisoner, 1 vandalism, 2 warrants, and 1 welfare check for a total of 173 calls that came through Lake County Central Dispatch.
Thank you. The next is zoning property maintenance. Gary Gray is not here, but I will read what he sent me. There were 3 garage sale permits issued, 2 fence permits, 1 deck permit, 1 new sanitary sewer permit, 1 contractor registration, and 1 window permit. Okay, moving on to no. No. Garage sale, fence, deck, new sanitary contractor registration, and window. No guns. Okay, purchase and approvals, a motion to approve the May 2023 financial reports. Do I have a motion to approve, please? Ms. Mar makes a motion.
Second.
Mr. Joyce seconds. Discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Joyce,
Aye.
Mrs. Joyce, Mrs. Hardwick,
Aye.
Mrs. Mara, Mr. Conrad,
Aye.
Mr. Thompson.
Aye.
And then, do we have any payments we need to approve?
No.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to the second public comment portion. So do we have any public comments, please?
The boat,
No, RV. Oh, I even prepared something, but it wouldn't print. Okay,
you can email it.
I emailed it to myself. It's I've got it to do it.
Okay.
To the Village of Timberlake, Mayor Mara.
Your name?
Oh, David Martin. Address 16 Key Waden,
Thank you.
Timberlake, Ohio, 44095.
We're good with the best.
To the Village of Timberlake, Mayor Mara, Village Council and its residents. On or about June 12th, 2023, we received a certified letter with a warning notice concerning our motorhome. It stated on the warning that we're in violation of ordinance 470.10, parking and storage of recreation vehicles. Upon my return from my mother's funeral in Virginia, I contacted Mayor Mara to come to my home and explain the violation. John arrived and explained how the entire village was sent out violations en masse, the 5 that were sent. And our vehicle was not in violation, as he saw, because it is stored behind the front of our house, front of our residence. And I can explain that afterwards. We also spoke about upcoming events and the village improvements in the future. It was a good talk. To the individual or groups paying attention to my home, my family, I asked one time politely, mind your own business. Law enforcement and the administration have better things and more productive opportunities to pursue for the common good of our community. And that's it. Thank you. So, any questions? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, it's Jane again. I do see, and I stand corrected, I didn't know about 7/2023. But there is one thing that you guys should address, because the way that it says it, it should be located in the rear yard 5 feet from the side or rear lot line. Now, if you live on an odd lot, Joyce's have an odd lot, that if they were to put one in their backyard, you would have it in your neighbors. A lot of the cities do stipulate, I want to say Willowick has something in theirs where they state 25 feet from other dwelling, window, door. They word something like that, because we do have odd lots. And I'm not against the chickens. I know people want to raise chickens, but you have to also look out. Like my yard, I'm in somebody's back. Sure, because we're supposed to have 5 feet off of our property line anyway to begin with. So there should be 10 feet between most homes. And if you notice, a lot of people, their homes don't even allow emergency vehicles in between the homes. So it would have to, I think, if you guys would look into somehow the wording so that everybody in the village would be addressed. If you use a dwelling, because there's a lot of homes. Hank puts one in his backyard, it's in somebody's side window. And that's what we have to look at. We had the same problem with garbage cans so if everything else, I see you covered, but that's one guideline with Timberlake that we need to look as far as the dwellings, not so much a sideline and rear lot. Thank you.
Thank you. Good point.
And Jane, did you notice that they're supposed to be within an enclosure as well? So they shouldn't be in other people's yards and.
Well, no, but it's also, no offense, I have friends with chickens. Okay, it's off his garage. They stink. Okay, and he takes good care of them. And, they do, they're gonna attract skunks, rats, stuff like that. They do. Foxes. I had a coyote that ripped a raccoon up in my backyard. So. But.
If you have any more
but-
comments, please.
But it's
approach it.
really, I understand that they have to be caged and in coops and stuff. We just have to watch for our neighbors, the location, and who's gonna follow up when we pay the $10 as to if it's put up correctly. Was the property survey, was it within that amount? We, you wanna have those I's dotted and T's crossed before we go forward. And then people are standing here going, now, come on, that's.
Okay. Thank you. Any other
Thank
public comments? Good.
I think
Anyone
we
else?
do need tree canopies.
Anyone else have anything to say on council? Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn, please? So moved. Mr. Joyce makes a
Second.
motion. Thompson seconds. Roll call, please.
Mr. Joyce?
Aye.
Mrs. Joyce? Mrs. Hardwick?
Hi.
Mrs. Mara? Mr. Conrad?
Aye.
Mr. Thompson?
Aye.
Thank you. To 7:30, we are adjourned, and the next meeting will be Tuesday, August 15th, 6:30 PM. There will be no regular council meeting in July. Have a safe summer. Thank you.
Yeah, it is. You gotta go to mass in the morning.